Hello and que pasa, Blue Jays fans. I am your host, Craig Borden, here on Jays Latest. We're going to talk all things Toronto Blue Jays baseball here today, like we do every day. So make sure you hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons as we obviously dive into more Blue Jays stuff as we talk rumors and all the other good, great things that are going on in the field right now. Blue Jays continue to move in the right direction as we were talking about the last time. Obviously, we have a 38-30 record as we head off to the city of brotherly love, but we will get to that in just one moment. So it's that time of year. We are trade deadline in sight, about 6-8 weeks away from being able to just watch things go wild on the trade deadline and everything like that. And the biggest question until a couple of weeks ago was the Blue Jays going to be buyers or sellers. Right now, the scale is definitely tipped in the other direction from where it was a few short weeks ago. And the biggest thing is now, how do you push all your chips into the table with what this team has done as they have went from having like a negative 30 run differential to a +4 and are currently only 2 games behind, or sorry, 2 games ahead in the wild card, 4.5 games behind the New York Yankees, who also are looking to be shoppers come this trade deadline. So maybe it's just as equal to get them and beat them to the punch. So the question is, who could help this team and who's going to be the sellers? An interesting one I actually heard in the last couple of days is the fact that Adolis Garcia might be being shopped by the Texas Rangers. And the Texas Rangers obviously not having the kind of season they were hoping to have. They are currently in near last place, but they're close to 500 and they're starting to put some things together. The one thing that's still really crazy is the fact that they're 33-36 with a +23 run differential, which puts them in a weird spot to are they sellers, are they not, all these kind of things, because they're expected. So this is an estimate. If you look at the way the team is performing purely based on numbers, their expected record is actually equivalent to the Toronto Blue Jays current record. So it's very interesting to see how these scales tip. So are the Rangers possibly just throwing names out there to see what they could get? Because the biggest catch is in this whole equation is if they sell on Adolis Garcia right now, they are 100% going to be selling low on Adolis Garcia, who is currently having a rough season, batting .217, 8 home runs, still has 33 RBIs, which is the reason that he will still garner some great wonderful things as far as what a team could get in return for him. The Rangers also have a little bit of a surplus in outfielders. So trading their World Series MVP near candidate, the other from a few years ago, might not sit very well with some Rangers fans, but if it's going to get them over the aggregate here and get them to the playoffs, obviously that is going to be a very, very vastly different story. So what you get though, if you get Adolis Garcia, you're going to get a guy that could obviously mash. You're going to have to give up some pieces for him, but there is nothing short of what I would think being available here with some of our quote unquote minor league to quote unquote ready major leaguers. You're easily going to be trading somebody like Orelvis Martinez in this trade to be able to have to give up and get somebody like Adolis Garcia on the flip. Um, but if the Blue Jays are pushing their chips into the table for the playoffs, this is where the big win is for the Blue Jays for getting somebody like Garcia. In his only playoff performance at the age of 30, a couple of years ago when the Texas Rangers won the World Series, yes, there was that. He batted .323 throughout that postseason and hit just 8 home runs. It's not a record or anything. He was the ALCS MVP, had 5 home runs in the American League Championship Series that year against the Houston Astros. So just very good bat. We'd be getting something that would be able to potentially push this offense completely over the moon when you talk about getting a fresh and a healthy, hopefully, Anthony Santander back, and hopefully he returns to his form of what we saw in Baltimore, and you go from there. But to that point, it's very cool that they might be able to actually go fishing and catch somebody like Adolis Garcia, and you would have a hell of a bat to be able to put in the middle of this lineup with Vlad Bowe and everybody. The big perk on that whole thing is he's also not a rental. He is arbitration eligible still this off season. You would get 1 extra year of control, being able to chit chat with him going into his, I believe his age 33 season would be the catch. Yes, 33. So the question is, power's still there. Hopefully, he's not on the downturn. That would be the wonderful piece that we got to make sure we're avoiding if we're going to get somebody like him. So let's talk who else could be, quote unquote, making some people available come this trade deadline. I don't see a ton of teams willing to be able to do a lot in the American League East outside of possibly the Baltimore Orioles. But I don't think they have a lot that they're going to want to trade because they do have such good young talent. You're looking at somebody like Ryan O'Hearn, maybe for some high end prospects for pitching, because that is 100% where the Baltimore Orioles are lacking going into next season or even continuing to go through this year. They have been really piecing things together, have one of the lowest run differentials in Major League Baseball. Just to put that in perspective, we're not quite as bad as the Colorado Rockies at a negative 201, but you're going toward the fact that the Oakland A's have a negative 120, and your closest comparable is the Miami Marlins, with where the Baltimore Orioles currently sit at negative 1 or negative 85. So they have been having not a problem scoring runs, but then been giving up way too many runs, obviously, with that piece. So what else did it go? Okay, maybe you knock on the door of the Oakland A's. You're not going to get their best prospect in Jacob Wilson. Maybe you go to Miami and try to get a bat from them. Maybe you go to Pittsburgh, get somebody like IKF back. I don't think you're going to get those monster guys out of that. I don't think you're going to the Pittsburgh Pirates and getting them to give up Ke'Bryan Hayes. They've only said that two guys are off the table, and that's Paul Skeens, O'Neill Cruz. Shocking. I know that's surprising. But there are a lot of teams in this division, especially, that are dancing around the 500 line. And then even teams like we talked about yesterday with the Arizona Diamondbacks possibly giving up anybody. They are a 500 level team. There's not a lot of bad going on in certain places here, unless you're going to start looking at hoping that the Washington Nationals think they're truly out of it. The Atlanta Braves, I think, are going to actually somehow flip this whole script around. It's just a matter of damn time. But you knock on their door and ask for Chris Sale, give up a ton of bunch. It's a very Alex Anthopoulos move, being the general manager of the Atlanta Braves. So it'll be interesting over the next few weeks. So let's talk. Last night, there was a fun debut on our avenue, and I hope this isn't just the Blue Jays trying to prop him up and show off what he can do. But Trey Savage, the Blue Jays' #2 current prospect, actually made his Double-A debut with the New Hampshire Fisher Cats yesterday against the Reading Fighting Phils. So facing obviously the Phillies minor league affiliate, pitches 4 innings, 4 strikeouts, walked 4. That was a little odd, but only allowed the 1 earned run and 1 hit. So good stuff for him on his first real challenge, I feel like, that this year. Because he had to battle through that. They only allowed him to pitch 68 pitches in his Double-A debut, but he has already been through 2 other levels, and this is now his 3rd level that he's been at. He's accelerating through this minor league system, and I really do think he's going to get a good stint here in Double-A. So Fisher Cat fans, get out to the ballpark and make sure you get a chance to watch this kid, because he's special. He's going to be a fun one to watch. And the Blue Jays are going to have the great benefit of having him maybe in this rotation next season, even if he keeps it this kind of a trend. But I truly think he needs a challenge, and I'm hoping he gets that in Double-A, because I do think that there's plenty of talent in the Eastern League for him to be able to cut his teeth into and really figure out the part of pitching and not just blowing people away like he's been in the Single-A and Single-A plus levels with the Dunedin Blue Jays and the Vancouver Canadians. And the Canadians are crushing it too, so make sure you check that out. Arjun Nimmala hit his 10th home run. It's just awesome. Blue Jays lower end of the minor league system at this point, so make sure you check that out and keep up to date. Trey Savage is coming, so is Arjun Nimmala. So let's talk tonight. The Blue Jays will be playing this evening in Philly at Citizens Bank Ballpark. Starts at 7 o'clock. Make sure you be there or be square if you're in the Philly area, because this is always a fun matchup for the Blue Jays and the old World Series rivalry. Our good friend of the Jaybird Watching podcast, Bob File, was on last week to talk all things the Philly rivalry, the old World Series, and the wonderful talent that the Phillies have always had, and how this is still quasi a good relay back and forth. Blue Jays obviously took 2 out of 3 this past series when it was in Toronto at the Skydome. Now it moves to Philly. Hopefully the Blue Jays are able to keep this trend up, because this is a real challenge for them. And I really think that this is the kind of stuff that they need to be able to do. If they want to show that they're for real to Major League Baseball, like we're starting to get traction even on the MLB Network, party people, we need to talk about what we're going to be able to do against teams like the Philadelphia Phillies, who are in contention. They are currently the second best team in the American League East, and they are 39-29, so they're right there with the record that we have. And we have a chance to do something really special. We're going to have to go through teams like Philadelphia Phillies. So nothing too crazy as far as people that face Gossman very efficiently. He'll be on the bump today looking for another solid outing. He's been on fire in his last few outings, looking a lot better. Splitting. That's the beautiful thing. So 3 earned runs in both of his outings. They were real trucks going through the Atlanta Braves and the Minnesota Twins. Yeah, Minnesota Marlins. That would have been a horrible idea. Anyway, the only man that's really had a ton of at bats against Gossman is Nick Castellanos, who has took him deep twice. And same thing with Kyle Schwarber. Limited bats, but has three dingers against Kevin Gossman. On the flip side, the Blue Jays are going to get Ranger Suarez, who nobody's barely faced. There's only a few guys that have a handful of at bats against him, and that is obviously the guys that played against him in the one game that we saw last season against the Philadelphia Phillies and Ranger Suarez. Suarez has been having an insanely good year. But he's got a 2.7 ERA, 1.13 WHIP over 43 innings, currently a 4-1 record, and he's only allowed 3 runs in his last 3 starts. So Blue Jays might be in tough for one tonight, but hopefully the offense keeps finding a way even to do the bunting nonsense that we've actually seen over the last few games. We shall see. All things look good. Go Blue Jays, and we will talk soon. Make sure you also check out the jbirdwatching.com for the other wonderful fun that I do. Have a great night. Cheers. Go Blue Jays.